Okay, here we go. All right, so I thought I would just start by slowly playing through this Danse number 1. There's 6 of them actually, and this is the first one. So you can buy it in a little booklet, and you got all 6 of them, and they're all gorgeous. C minor, so you set like this can work on lever harp as well. It's got 1 page turn, so I've got the page dog-eared here. So here we go. This is a slow tempo. Almost made it without a mistake. Almost. Anyway, so that's the piece that does go faster. If you want to know what that is, so it's a 72. I think it's like crazy. I think it's 72 is like, if you really want to learn this piece eventually, the final tempo is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like. So I kind of like it at the slower tempo. Anyway, so I thought we'd go through this in bits. I'm thinking about actually just talking about just some of the possible ways you can finger this. You might have noticed that at 42, I went like this. I put all my fingers on, and so I just put 4, 3, and 2 on, and then hopped my thumb. So it's like a little bit less risky. Has everyone done that kind of technique before? Oh, it's very handy, and you can also use it in the second section, or the third section, I guess, the bottom of the first page. It starts this thing where you could just go 1, 3, but you could also use that technique and then start doing the 3s, 1s and 3s as well. So there's different times you can kind of pop that kind of fingering in. Whenever it's like really whipping along, it can happen again at 29 or any of those places where it goes straight up, like in several parallel formations. That kind of thing, it works really well. Okay, so I'm going to just go back to the beginning, and I think the first challenge with this one is that you've got this little left-hand pattern. So I think we'll start just with the left-hand pattern, and it goes on in this pattern for the first 2 lines, and then it slightly changes. So I'll just show you, it just does this. It's C minor, just goes C, G, and then the G, and then G7, and back to the C minor, and it does it again. So let's just take it at that speed and just the left hand. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'll count us in with 4, 5, 6, and we can all try it together. 4, 5, 6. So what I find with that is trying to keep your left hand from getting all cramped up or something like that. You just make sure your fingers are just hanging down, and if you get into that where you have from the 4 to the 2 when there's a 7th there, I kind of do a tiny bit of a hop instead of trying to place to it, because that's really uncomfortable. So when I get to that, it's from the first bar into the second bar, you've got that big space there. So I actually come off the 4th finger and just sort of jump to the 2nd finger, and you can actually do that fairly quickly. Because my 4th finger is too short, I can't reach that and actually place to it. It's just this teeny tiny hop, but I'm staying very, very close into the strings. So does anyone else have any problem with that left hand trying to make that 7th work? Any issues? Okay, and so then the thing with that is then your right hand, we're in 6/8. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And yet it feels, in the left hand, it almost feels like 1 and 2 and 3 and. It doesn't feel like a 6/8, it feels like a 3, 4. And so I think that's why it's a little bit, you know. So what I did when I first looked at this, I thought, well, if you think of each group as like, here's the first group. Second group is, and then it doesn't seem quite as weird. So then it's just like 1, here's group 1. And then just think, okay, the Ds all happen at the same time. There's my Ds, and then I've got an octave. And then this is actually a G chord, G minor. So I just think of this with the G, the missing G from up here is down in my thumb. And then all the C's happen together. And so that's how I first got coordinated with this, is just thinking about what goes together. You've got the C minor, you've got that G7, and then there's the rest of that G minor, and then you've got the C minor. And you can just think of the whole thing as like a 3/4, but with this emphasis, like dum da, but it's like 1 and 2 and. But that's another way you can think of it. Or just simply knowing that it's on the second beat of the triplet, then it's on the first beat of the triplet in the right hand. But definitely when I get to the third bar, I'm thinking it like a 3/4. So I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that seems to get me through it. So I think what we'll do is we're going to just go on to the next line, because it's kind of the same idea. So again, you're just using this, it's basically the same thing, but you're just breaking it up a bit. So starting at bar 5, and I'll count us in with the 4, 5, 6. So 4, 5, 6, 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in fact, those last 2 bars, you can think of both of them as a 3/4, I think. So it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and then 2, 3, 4. So that you can go back and forth between 3/4s and 6/8 if it helps, which is sort of like I think of when I'm doing Spanish music or any kind of Latin music where you have a lot of that, where the emphasis keeps shifting between 6/8s and 3/4s. It's like da 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 da. It's like from West Side Story. Lanny, do you have any words of wisdom to throw in here?
With the not you know what, I wasn't really thinking about the rhythm. I was just watching with my eyeballs as to where to place and hoping it was landing in the right spot. But definitely the sort of smoothness with the in the first line, that just like getting really smooth with the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the fourth finger. And so closing in your hand is going to make a big difference there. If you're trying to grab at it, it's going to make it really hard to put it together with the left hand. So like adding to that rhythm is really closing in your hand. And the other thing that I was doing with the left hand, I am kind of connecting, but I'm really doing like Celtic. I'm really turning. I'm really doing kind of a weird turn with my hand so I can get to the, and then I bounce to get to the F with my second finger.
Yeah.
Um, but also at the end of the line, I think I was doing the first bar, second bar. Yeah, when I got to the fourth, so bar two, the second half, I did C, G, and I kind of came in flat hand to hit the bottom G. So that's going from the fifth beat to the sixth beat in the second bar. And I kind of kept that pattern just to keep the busyness of the left hand down so that I could be more exact catching it. It was just starting to get too much ring, and it was getting harder for me to catch it as I was getting into the second, third lines. So
That's
yeah,
interesting.
so every fourth grouping I was just opening my hand and just doing G, G with a flat hand just to quiet the
Let's try
strings.
that.
But
That's an
that was it.
interesting idea. Yeah, let's everybody try that. So that's in the going back to that first line, just the left hand, and just did everyone catch what Lanny was saying? So she starts off with just the fourth finger being like normal, right? Whatever normal means. And then when you get to this last one, she opened up. You open up like this.
Open up, yeah. So C,
So then you're kind of
G,
dampening as.
yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, but really just as you play the G.
Just so you're trying to quiet
Yeah.
down all the
Just stops a bit
reverberation.
of the busyness.
Ah.
And then it made it easier to get into bar four. I felt coming into bar four, all of a sudden my left hand was doing great. And then, sorry, bar three, my left hand was doing great. Bar three, it suddenly got hard. And I didn't know why. And I think it was just because the strings were just all still going.
Oh yes, and
So
also
that's
because
why I
that's
just
where the
threw in
rhythm
that
suddenly
little
turns into
muffle.
like it feels like a 3/4 right there. I
That's
guess.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you kind
yeah.
of, a bit of a reset.
Let's try that first line. I think that we can put it together like both hands. I think again slow tempo.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're gonna try it at slow tempo, both hands, first line, and if everything seems to be going well, we'll move on to the second line, and then we'll try this next little bit, because the first 8 bars are kind of the first phrase. Okay, so 4, 5, 6, 1. So when I got into what I call the 3/4 bars, I just was thinking that the first one is just straight up. It's a fifth straight up in the left hand, and the second one is also a fifth straight up, and the last one is an octave going the other way. So if your brain kind of splits it up into these 3 little box cars riding along in a train, then it actually ends up being, it makes much more sense than if you're trying to think of it as a 6/8. So just like up with the fifth, up with the fifth, down with the octave. So I'm going to just do that in bar 7. Just that. In fact, the same, those 7 and 8. And just think up, up, down. Okay, 4, 5, 6. Up, up, down. And then we have this. Oh, what what did I do there? Oopsie. And there's our upwards fifth here. So both of them have that upwards fifth, the G to the D, and then the downwards octave, but just the very beginning of that bar is slightly different. So it's just got that first upwards second, and then the upwards fifth, and then the downward octave. And if you just practice those two bars like that, it starts to come together. I think this is like, it's the coordination. And then the next bit, starting in bar 9, is just this little triplet that just like 1 and a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's fine. That's no big whoop. Now we're into this, the section B, as I call it. And then it's again, the left hand is the same, I think. No, it isn't. It's different. So this one, then you have to think about which finger you want to use on the bottom. And I was switching back to my third finger when I got into the triad. So this part was all fourth finger. And here, and then I switched to third finger. But then I found that was actually confusing me even more. So then I went back to just always using the fourth finger on the low G, just no matter how big or small the interval was above it. But that's something that some people might find is useful, just switching to a third finger if it's a smaller interval, but then you have to practice that in. So in the left hand here, it's just, it starts off pretty much the same as before, and then it doesn't. So the first bar seems like you're going to be doing the same pattern, and then the pattern changes. So, but putting it together isn't so bad. This one seems to make more sense. So every time you get to the last 2/8 notes, you've got this chord on the right hand. And so at this point, this is section B, or starting at 10, you've got this 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 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 1. And that at least is all the same. It's all the same rhythm. So once you get the first bar, you've got it. And then what I did here is I took the last 2 notes of that last bar in my right hand because there's a page turn there. So that gives me a chance to get my page over. And then what I also did was I wrote that last bar on this page over in the margin of the next page so that when I turn my page, I've got a little reminder about what was just before that. So then I don't have to worry about that page turn. It's the strangest way that the copyist didn't find a way to just jig that over a little bit, but anyway. So then now we're in bar 16, and this is where you could try this little number where you put 4, 3, and 2 on the bottom 3 notes, and then just hop your thumb. So you grab it all, and you go, and then you just have one more to go up, and that's this one. And you just do that like normal. And now you could try some other fancy thing. You could try sliding. I don't know if anyone's ever done this before, but there's a way of getting down in 6 where you slide your thumb. So you have the 2, 3, and 4 on the bottom 3 notes, and you slide. But I don't know whether this would apply here. I'm going to try it. Yeah, it's too much sliding and it's too much turning around. I think it's easier just to hop. But the beginning of it, you could do that. Coming down, I think you just start getting brain freeze. Anyway, but those are 2 handy dandy little techniques if you ever have just one direction to go. So from there, we would start, and then it starts very quietly. You make a little crescendo, and then you come back down and you're quiet again. And then you've got these harmonics. So when you get to, I'm kind of getting my head on myself, but I just want to point out, when you get to those harmonics, the G can be a little problematic, up in the left hand because your shoulder's all kind of in a funny position. But I found that if you kind of come at it and hit it with this part of your hand, like hit it on the way by, but don't just place it on there, because I kept getting thumps. But if I came at it and got it just through, it came out a lot better than if I put my hand right on the string. I got much less of a sound. I got just kind of an ugly kind of thump. But if I came at it from about an inch away, I got this really nice harmonic. And that took a little doing to figure out what was wrong. The other thing I was thinking of is just doing the first two in my right hand. But it's hard at the speed that eventually it would go. So this worked, just coming at it from a distance, like that. So when I got to that bit, that bit, oh, yeah, there's another spot. And then, I'll tell you, that took some practicing. But yeah, those little spots here, just this little section has got, again, a bit of brain freeze going on. So the first two bars of this section, so 16 and 17, are fine. Like there's not really a problem there. That's okay. And these next two bars, you have to kind of go, oh, okay, there's a, and that's like, whoa, you know, so you have the first two together and the last two together, and everything in between is one after the other. So together, left, right, left, and together. So that's a bit like doing counter rhythms almost. So let's just, you can practice, I would practice 18 and 19 just to get what goes with what. So you just think together, left, right, left, together, and then together, left, right, and then the left has the next bit. So just the beginning together, the end together, beginning together, and then alternate, and then you're good. So I'm just going to start at 18, and I'm going to do it really slowly. So like 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's a bit of a trick. Just going to give you a few minutes to just look at that, because that's a bit like, you know, when you have to rub your tummy with one hand and pat your head with the other. But it's really pretty. I love this piece. It's so beautiful. And then the same thing applies in bar 22 and 23. Yeah, it's exactly the same idea, except you haven't got the 3 notes at the end of that thing. You only have 2. So that part is just like. And it ends on that funny bum, bum, like it doesn't seem to make sense. Like 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3. It makes sense if you think of it as a 3/4. And then you just have 1, 2, then this thing. Okay, and then we drop back down to piano, and we have this lovely thing. So your left hand just has, starting on the dark blue, and then the red, and then just the same notes, and then we just have this. And then it's just like a repeat of what we just did. The bar 29 is the same as the beginning of bar 16, and I think that just does exactly, pretty much the same, almost the same thing. So I think I'm going to just jump down to 34, because this is where it gets kind of interesting. So you get to stay on the same notes. So it's, you know, as far as technical stuff, it's fine. It's just wrapping your head around the rhythm. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. And then he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's fine. And then he goes into 5, 8, 6, 8, 5, 8, 6, 8. So all it means is you just have to count, and it's going to feel like a dancer missing a foot. So at 34, it's just it's great. You get to stay pretty much where you are. You just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's just fun. It's like it's really great. And then you're sort of doing the same thing, but now you're doing this weird thing where it feels like you've skipped a beat, which you have, and it's louder. So then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, you just get to stay on this basically the same notes. Your thumb stays on that G the whole time in the right hand, and the left hand too. So your thumbs never leave the G's. And then we have this one little section here where we have this. Now here I just go and then just come off and then. And so again, the bottom G is always the G. Then, so that part's not hard. This part's fine. It's like, so it's just a matter of, again, we're landing on a strange beat. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip a beat. So that one's weird because we don't come back on the first beat of the bar, we come back on the second beat of the bar, which is a little bit of a hiccupy sound. You know, like it's what, you know, again, you feel like you've missed something, but that's correct. And then the ending is a little tricky because it's a bit jumpy. So all of a sudden we have this thing. And you can either use 2 and 3 for this next one, and that way your second finger doesn't have to leave that A, and then you come back to this. And then you have, again, another 3, 4. And then what I did here, now this is a big stretch, but I found I was just able to reach, so you got an octave between 2 and 4. And then I did 2, 3 on that last one. So the left hand, you really can't see it from there if I show it you in the right hand. And then 2 and 3. So that is a little awkward right there. So you've got this G up here, right? So like, oops. So that's one way. I mean, if you have to jump it, you have to jump it. But, and I don't think there's any writ marked. So I think it's supposed to just barrel along to the end. So that would be a problem if you have really small hands and you can't reach that note. But that's about it. That's about it. I'm just thinking there's really, oh yes, the other thing is he's only marked the first one as a roll. So I think the rest are supposed to be solid. So I think it's just like, oopsie, sorry, my bad. But you could make a writ if you really wanted to. We had a master class here last, whenever it was, like a week or two ago, with Sasha Boldachev, and he talked about how if it doesn't say writ, and it's, you know, and you're not, especially if it's fairly recent music, then don't writ. Like he said that in some styles of music, they don't write it in, but they expect you to know that you would make a writ. But he says as you get further along into more contemporary stuff, they write everything, every little detail down. And so if it doesn't have a writ mark, you can pretty much assume that he doesn't want one. I think he was talking about the Natra sonatine in particular. I think that was the context. Oh, by the way, I took some notes, and if anyone's, I think I'll just put them in the Google Drive in case anybody wants them, because there were some very interesting points he made. Okay, I think that's. Does anyone have any questions about this? Because we can move on to the Salzedo, and then we'll have time maybe to look at the other Andrès piece too.
Yeah, I was just gonna. I mean, I didn't have any questions necessarily, but I was just gonna make a note that the left hand, we have the dotted 8th note that's kind of running. So we've got this sort of melody that happens in the left hand, which is not that exciting, and it just kind of comes out anyways from A, but from B. And I was listening to Catherine's version and online. You know, and with a Celtic harp, we don't hear it that much, but it is really an interesting line that C, D, C, B, C, da, 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 da.
That's
and it
true.
kind of like
Yes.
It kind of like resolves itself on the second half of bar 15.
Yes.
So it's kind of interesting. So, you know, if we could make something of it, of course, when it's going fast, it's really hard to get that to sort of lift out of the texture, because what comes out, especially in a recording, is right. It's that right hand that really pops through. But if you're able, when you're practicing, to make something of that bass line that's
really
through.
true, and you can see that that's what he wanted because he's got that stem pointing down.
He's got,
often that's their way of kind of signaling to you that this is important. This is another line. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it will all be just beamed, normally.
that's right. Yeah, he's got that second voice happening there. So
Yeah. In fact, I guess it goes all the way through here, really, because it's just got this in the beginning,
yeah,
right? But I guess it's because you'd want to pull that out a little bit.
yeah,
And then, yeah, and then of course in that second part, really, you're up here. I mean, it really is like this whole other thing going on
yeah,
in there. Thank you for bringing
yeah. A
that up.
little
I
counter
completely,
melody. And did you are those your markings? Those little tenutos underneath? Were those your markings or were they
no,
in
those are
the
there. They're
original?
in the ink.
It's hard to tell from the.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're in
Okay. Yeah.
there.
Yeah. It's really nice. And it's hard to make anything of it when the right hand's so punchy. But
Yes. Yeah.
if it can come through, it's nice.
Yeah. 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 It's funny when you're looking up stuff on YouTube, you find these wonderful harpists sort of just dotted around the landscape that you never even heard of before. And
Totally.
she's got a nice little series of YouTube performances.
She's an absolutely lovely player. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love her videos. They're Catherine Butterfly. They're beautiful. They're all
What
in
a
the
nice name
gardens.
too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Is that, I mean,
Uh,
is that really her name or
I mean, it's a good choice if
it's a
you've
great, yeah,
chosen.
I mean, you don't forget that one easily.
she's a
Yeah.
lovely, she's a yeah, a lovely player. Mhm.
Well, I think any questions about this, or shall we move on? Or the other thing I had sort of written in, I don't know why I wrote it in, was just like to close, like when you get to this, just make sure that when you have these chords to just completely close your hand, because it's really easy to get kind of bound up into something like this, especially when it goes at full speed. If you just went like and like this, you'd already be getting tight before you reach the next thing. So if you just close it and then immediately spring back out, it also helps bring out a little bit of an accent in there. Not like an accent, but an actual, like a, I don't know, just kind of some emphasis to it. Anyway, this was just I forgot why I was teaching it to somebody who wanted it for some reason, and I thought, oh, how lovely, just so yay. And there's some really cool things in here, like you can see from the bottom of that page, it was the beginning of the next one, and they're full of these lovely, particular Bernard Andrès things that he does. Okay, and
Gems.
would you like to do the Valse Musette next, or should we do the Salzedo next?
I think we should do the Salcedo, and then we can just have a quick chat about the valse, and we can talk about it next.
Okay. And
Next,
so, Lanny,
I
you
can
said you
just
put a click track.
yeah. So yeah, if we grab the trill exercise, now I don't know where mine went to.
So I had to do all of these when I was a student. My teacher made me go through this entire book. And I'm glad that she did, because this one is really good, especially for what Lanny and I are going to be playing it together in the symphony at the end of the month. And we have a parts that have like, like all these one-handed trills with other stuff going on underneath. And I think, well, it's a good thing I did this exercise when I was a student.
It's true.
Okay, so I'm just going to so this one has a lot of sharps. It's in the key of, I think it's B major. Yep, it's in the key of B major. And as it happens, it has a few B major chords in there. So the first thing I always do is look for the, like the home bass chords, and then finding ones and fours. So then the key of B, that's 1 is B, 4 is E, and of course 5 is F, or F sharp. But good old Salzedo never sticks around with traditional chords very much. Okay, so did you want to use the click track, Lanny?
It's I could just show it to everybody, but I'm not able to share my screen.
Oh,
Are you able
can
to
yeah, I
let
can.
me?
It's under security, I think.
If you're gonna let me
Can I
share.
ask you one question before you go on?
Yeah.
Can you tell me which sharps I've got to put them in, because it's printed so close that I can't read it?
Oh, It's well, Father Charles goes down and. So the
Yes.
way you memorize the chart, the sharps is Father Charles goes down and ends battle. So it's F, C, G, D,
F,
A. Yeah.
C,
So just think Father Charles goes down. Here, I'll just write into
Or
the.
C.
or Father Christmas gave Dad an electric blanket.
So wait a minute. So it's A sharp, G sharp, F sharp, C sharp, yeah?
And D sharp.
And D sharp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
sharp except for E and B.
E and
Uh,
B, E and B are normal.
That's
Thank
it.
you. So I'm just going to write that down because I was getting problem sharps.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's the other thing I like about this book is he goes through all
E
the different sharps
and
and flats keys so that
not
yes.
sharps. It's easier to know which one's not in that key rather than think which ones are. If you know
And
what
the
I
other
mean.
thing about this, there we go. Oh, fantastic. Okay. Oh, that's very good.
Yeah. So if you guys are able to, if you're able to see this, I just put this, I put this in the Google Drive. So this I did out on MuseScore, and I made the right hand that's moving as a trill or the left hand that's moving in the rhythm. So obviously there's no half notes anywhere here, but this exercise starts with the first two lines as the right hand is doing trill-like patterns. And then the next two lines, the left hand is doing the trill-like patterns. So you can see where it changes from right hand to left hand. So I printed this out. I really made this so that it could be a click track, but I printed it out and you can use it to clap it if you would like to practice your rhythms or just sort of staying with a metronome beat. You can use it as a clapping exercise. But what I did with this then is I made it an MP3. And
Ah,
so there is a click track available now and it's in the drive. So it will start with the harp going ding, ding, 3 and 4 and 1 and ta, 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 ta. So it'll tap out the beats that you're playing with your right hand. Then when it gets to bar 2, 5, it's going to tap the left hand and continue throughout. So as you're practicing it, if you want to use it as a practice, it's good to use a metronome, obviously, but to use something like this, you really find out where you're not landing exactly with your triplets or your 16th notes, or particularly as we get further and we change all of a sudden from 30-second notes into half notes, or like vice versa. That's where I find for myself, I'm like, oh, I really thought I had it. It felt like I had it with the metronome. But when you get it like exactly here with this click track, you can feel where you're pulling away from the rhythms. So if you want to use it, it's available. The MP3 is in the Google Drive for you
oh,
as
that's
well.
wonderful.
And it just starts with a bar for free. And it's a bar of harp that just goes ding, 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 ding on quarter notes. And then on bar 2 is where we start with our music. And it's just a wood block, so it's just one pitch that goes throughout. So that's there for you.
Wow, thank you. Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful learning aid there. So one thing I also like to point out is that if you're having trouble sometimes with these little things like quadruplets, or like one E and or you can say capilano, something like that. And for triplets, of course, hamburger, 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 hot dog, hot dog. And then when you get into fives, hippopotamus or university or Philadelphia, like any of those, I tend to use university because it rolls off the tongue so nicely. So at the very, very end of this thing, in this third last bar, there's a university in there. There's like da 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 da, and then it goes da 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 da, and that's bar 18, or the first bar of the last line. But I'm just gonna go through this with you, and luckily it's very slow. So it's 52 to the quarter note, which is pretty slow. I'm just gonna, there it is, 52. So this is, so that's the goal speed. So we'll just go like, it's just gonna be da 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 da. I don't know if I've got the right pitch, but that's how it goes. So I'm going to just count us in, and then we'll go through some of these little things that we have to do in here. So here goes nothing. Okay, 3, 4. Oh no! Oh my God! There it is. And there it is. Sorry about that. So in that one with all the craziness, it's just 1 E and sorry, not, so that's 1 and 2 and 3. That's how that works. So that you have to remember to come back to your thumb, which is what I kept forgetting. So you go 2 1 2 1 2 to make the 5, da da da, and then you go straight back into the third finger for that last B. So it's a 1 and 2 and 3. That's how that works. So of course I'd have a brain cramp. Anyway, I'm just going to talk about a number of the things that are in this. First of all, getting your left hand moving is always a challenge if you're right-handed. Actually, I'd like to talk about when we get halfway through here, like bar 13. No, is it 13? Yes, where you turn into two-handed trills. So up till that point, it's all been one-handed trills, and all of a sudden it's two-handed trills. And did we ever cover two-handed trills in this class? I can't remember. I don't think so. Anyways, the idea behind a two-handed trill is that you always have one finger attached. So you never have two fingers attached, and you never are completely off. So that you have just like a relay going between. So you have this finger, and just as this one starts to play, the thumb goes on next. And then just as the thumb is about to play, the other one goes on of the other hand. And it goes like one at a time, and always just an immediate switcheroo, just so that you never have both hands off, or not both fingers off, or both of them on. You never have two at a time. So it's just one at a time all the way through. Oopsie, and I have the wrong pedals, of course. And then and then to get the triplets, so you're thinking da 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 da. So what happens here? You have to think about which fingers got the important beat. So you have this. First of all, it's always the second finger at the beginning. 1 and 2, and then here. Now it's your thumb. So you went from the second finger of the left hand to the thumb of the right hand to get that and, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So this one is hard because you have the second finger of the left hand, then the right thumb, then the right second finger, then the left second finger. So it's switching fingers all the way through to get the different beats of like the eighth note beats. So it's like left, right, right, left, and then different fingers as well. So that is something that's really good to practice because sometimes you get stuff like that. And then you're back to quadruplets, which is much nicer. And you can see what happens there. My thumb with my left hand comes up and grabs that B at bar 15 so that you can go straight into it without having to try and switch fingers or do anything crazy like, you know, switch it 3, 2, 1 or anything like that. So that's why that's there. And like Lanny said, then all of a sudden you have to do a complete like gear change because now you're suddenly in half notes. And it's like, what, you know? So you have this like, this thing, and this is where your metronome or your click track really comes in handy. So you've got this going. So you have this thing where you're going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, da. And that, finally, I did it. Okay. Anyway, all right. So that's the two-handed trill. First of all, would you like to start with just working on that two-handed trill just for a little bit? So that's just right in bar 13. So we can just do a little bit of those two-handed trills. Keep my eye on the time. Oh, we're running out of time. You know what?
Okay,
What do you
I
think,
think
Wendy?
I think this is useful for a couple of minutes for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
If you guys think it's useful.
Okay,
Trill.
looks like people are working on it. So, okay, we'll give a couple of minutes towards this thing here. Yeah, so I think it's best if we all just practice on our own because there's really nothing else to say about it other than just working on it. So
I was just doing this the other day with one of my adult students, and we were really focusing on just working on the thumbs together. You know, when you're doing like, for example, a G and an A, G, A. So we were just really working on the thumbs. You probably can't hear the harp, but just working on the thumbs alternating and not closing too far, really using your wrists to pop the thumb off so that it's not so much of your thumb. You get just a little bit of pop from your hand, but not so much that you're twisting off. You don't want that. But just working on letting the thumb sort of alternate, then letting the second fingers alternate. And then going back to the 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not using my wrist at all. It's interesting. What I'm doing. What am I doing?
You're not, yeah.
I think I'm just using a bend of a thumb to get the pop, just like so I'm not.
Just.
Yeah, my wrists are not moving. So I just.
I think
yours definitely.
I do. Here's my, yeah. Yeah. It feels, I do a little bit of a flow, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's something to micromanage I don't think you want to be like practicing popping your hands or twisting your hands because it does. I think you do want to just work on just.
Yeah, I think everyone has a little different technique of doing these, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just when I get going fast, I use my my wrists a little bit more. Not when I'm trying to be rhythmic like this, though. On the something. You know, if you're trying to be really rhythmic, I'm not popping my wrists for that.
Yeah, but the interesting thing, the main thing, actually, I should say, the main thing that you really want to try and master is to make sure that you never have more than one finger on, and that you're never off completely, or you're never both on. Like the idea is if you were to take a snapshot at any given time, you'd always just see one finger attached, or thumb, or whatever, you know, so that you always would be. And I started doing this very slowly, like really, like just like painfully slowly, just making sure But like there was never this, so it was just like handing off a baton to a racer and not bopping them on the head. And really, the rest of it is just like everyone's got again different kinds of ways. But with this kind of thing, I think he talks about, in fact, in this piece at the top in the ink, he says with an oscillating movement of the wrist, one-handed trill, and then and even says in two-handed trills, he says both wrist steady. But again, it's all depends on. But certainly for the one-handed trill, you definitely do use this oscillation technique where you're just pushing your thumb forward a little bit. You're not ever coming back that way, but just going forward and then coming back to normal for the other finger. So it's just forward and then back to normal, whichever. So I got the wrong. Yeah. So it's just this little oscillation, and that is correct in the certainly in the way Salzedo wanted to do it. Though I think Sasha doesn't move his wrists much when he's trilling. I mean, Sasha's kind of a whole another level there, but yeah.
Yeah, he definitely, and he even like comes up a bit, like
Yeah.
everything I don't think I could even figure out how to do. But yeah, so when I do the one-handed, I do a little bit more movement this way, but I stopped that. Actually, you worked with me a little bit on that, not doing too much, because when I started as a child, I started kind of learning really like twist. And that really caused a lot of problems with my arms. And so, yeah, definitely twisting, but not too much. And then when I do the two-handed, it's not a this way twist. It's just a little pop up away from the. So I'm not twisting side. I'm not doing a hello.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of. I'm doing my. It's one of those pinball things. You hit the ball on the paddle, kind of. Yeah, I'm just kind of going backwards a little bit, but again, that's not necessary. It might just be just.
No, I see what you mean, like that. Yeah, that's sort of there's a little bit of
going
away, a little tiny, depending on how fast.
Faster, just to keep the wrist like mobile.
Yeah, you don't want to be, like a board by any means. Yeah, so I think the main challenge with this one is staying absolutely rhythmic and like totally rhythmic. And then, of course, he throws in all the dynamics and the pedal changes and everything just to add more challenges, more levels of difficulty to it. But it's a fabulous little excerpt, especially going from the quadruplets to the triplets, going back and then into duplets and just trying to keep it all steady. So that click track idea is great.
Yeah, and yeah, with an exercise like this, you can take it in chunks. Like you can just do the right hand and then the left hand on the trill bits, or you can just do the half notes with the pedals, or just work on your dynamics, because that's really a lot already there.
Yeah.
A quick question. Yes. I'm finding that if I'm doing it, I do take the right hand further away, because if I don't, then I smack it in when the left hand is doing their bit on the trills. How do you actually manage not to impede and muffle?
Well, when I'm doing these two-handed trills, I'll just take a random, so then I've just got my thumb kind of hovering, and I'm sort of hovering over here, and I just wait, and then just boom, like try to make it an absolute exchange. And then I'm just waiting, like hovering again, and then the same thing again. So I've trained them by going very, very slowly at first, like really, really slowly. This is Judy Lohman just made me play them incredibly slowly, so she would make sure that it was always just like that, and then that, and then that, and so they're always just waiting until the last possible second, and then you just have this ready. And if you do slowly enough, then you can absolutely place it just where you want it. And eventually they catch on. Like after a while, they just start to get it. But it's just like you have to do a lot of repetition, a very, very slow kind of repetition to train them to do it like that.
Okay, thank you. I found that as I was trying it, the right hand goes faster than the left hand, because of course I'm right-handed, and it would come on and muffle what the left hand was doing. So they're not going at the same tempo yet.
No, my left hand's always been sluggish compared to my right hand. So we have a few minutes, like 4 minutes left to look at the Valse Musette. I think we have time to take a look at it.
Yeah. I mean, at least we can just kind of run run through how to practice it. And we can take a look at some more details next time. Um, I think, I don't know if you guys saw I sent an email today. I had put some fingerings in, if they work for you. So did you guys get the handout with the fingerings? Got that? Okay. So starting from the top, it kind of just starts this very smooth, everything's in a waltz, obviously. And it starts just with this very smooth, like waltz setting. This is kind of the introduction at the beginning. I think my original sound is off. So we have this nice forte. Writ there, and we just have all this pause, and then we start the actual waltz. It's 1, 2, 3. Now so it's written in the right hand. This is sometimes a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, because it is obviously easier to play it in the right hand, but it's the left hand pattern. And for me, if I start it with my right hand, it's the second bar that I really settle into the rhythm of the left hand. So I prefer to do it left hand starts that rhythm. It's going to keep that rhythm going throughout. So even though it's easier to play it with the right hand, I just go straight for the left, and that stays. So then we have these really nice, like really smooth left hand. I'm jumping everything. You don't have to jump so high. And you can use 1, 2, 3 for these big chords, or 1, 2, 4. I feel more comfortable with 4, but you may prefer 3 because you're playing a fourth finger on the bottom note. Obviously, the triads, I play 1, 2, 3, and that's nice and easy. We've got more triads, and the chord progression is really beautiful. So I would take a look and spend some time with the chord progression of the left hand and what's happening. It's got its own melody, and a C sharp. Right, the left hand is just absolutely stunning. You could play just the left hand on its own without the right hand. So just really listen to that melody. And in the third bar of the tempo, the right hand comes in with this very floating melody. It reminds me of gymnopody. It's just got these, like, the clouds passing by kind of feeling. And there's a repeat back to the beginning, but I don't repeat to the beginning. I just repeat to the tempo at that point. I don't know if yours, but it seems strange.
Yeah, I
really
agree with you. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, repeat to the tempo. And while we're at that point, at the very end of the piece on page 4, there's a DCL fine. Again, it makes absolutely no sense. The left hand plays F, E, D. It moves from the F, E, D. It doesn't make any sense to go back to the intro. F, E, A, da, 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 da. It's just like it's already started that left hand. So again, the DCL fine, I go to the tempo on bar 5 instead of back to the beginning.
Yeah, in fact, you can even put a segno on that spot and call it del segno.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't listened to the recording. I'm sorry, but I assume that other people maybe do the same thing. That people are going back to the intro.
Yeah, it's quite possible that was like a boo-boo, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Now this middle section, starting from 31, It really is just more of the same. There's a bit more movement that happens. The left hand obviously is kind of moving a little bit more. It gets a little bit trickier. Oh, can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, it's telling me I'm unstable, which it seems to do a lot recently. I've been getting a lot of you're unstable on this line. So it does start to move quite a bit, and on the top of page 2, there's a pedal change per bar, which I love. I know Judy Judy has some choice words every time we get there, right? but it actually makes me very happy that there's just one pedal change on every bar. So I've written the pedal changes, not in solfege. If you would like to practice just using your solfege pedal changes, it's kind of nice to do that. I like to do it because sometimes you get a piece of music and it's all written with solfege pedals, and instead of having to go through and do the whole thing again, it's nice to be able to read them. So if you prefer to practice that, then keep your original. But I did scratch them out and put the letters on the bottom, and just right on that beat you can change all of those pedals without any sort of buzzy disturbance. It should be fine. When you're playing the left hand too, it'd be nice to see where you're finding too much sound in the left hand. We're like all talking a lot about how to sort of reduce the sound of the bass of the harp, and now that we have all pedal harps, we can talk about that a little bit more. So just taking a look as you're practicing the left hand to where is it getting just too much, where are the chord changes being affected by the harp just still ringing too much. So that's something really good to listen to, especially if you're just playing the left hand. And the other thing to mention is in the 4th page, or like page 4, we get into this busyness sort of at 100, at 99. There's a muffle just before 99. I think we're just back into 1 flat at this point. The right hand starts to move. So right here, the way I put the fingerings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, emphasizing the 4 does not make it sound super pretty in here. So I would just be careful with this. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're turning around on that 4, it's the easiest fingering to do, but it sounds really not pretty. So be really, really gentle on that 4th finger anytime you do. I guess it's just those 2 bars. I think it happens again in the last line as well. Just be really careful that that fingering is not interfering. There's really no other fingering I would use there.
You know what you could do is like bring out the 3rd finger a little bit, and that might sort of, take the emphasis off the 4th finger.
Yeah. Yeah, just as long as it's not like, because as soon as that turnaround happens, it's always our go-to that we always accent that 4th finger when we're turning around. So I think it's a great exercise to just keep the 4 really gentle.
Yeah, just don't close it all the way. I think maybe the thing is just take it off the string, but not come all the way.
Right, yeah.
Or the other thing you can do, I found, I had the same problem exactly, is just come back to the 3rd finger and then put the rest on.
Yeah.
That seems to de-emphasize it, because if I put them all back on, that's when I hear that pop.
Yeah.
If I just go to the next one, just to the 3rd finger, then I'm able to control my 4th finger a bit better.
Yeah, that's good. Or even just thinking of like reverse hairpins.
Yeah.
Figure out how to make the reverse hairpin. So you get quieter as you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get louder into the next part. That could work. So I think that's sort of like all I need to go through just in terms of like practicing. And we can go through in more detail next time. This one doesn't have as much as the other one, certainly in terms of the learning. This is a little bit more about sound production and just getting the flow, so that there aren't like heavy accents. We get everything just very gentle and moving and getting those dynamics to sing.
Hey, is there some of that wine for me?
Yeah. Totally. Everybody needs to go get wine now.
Here.
Um,
Faithful bartender.
well, that's great. I think this is lovely. I didn't know the Valse Musette. That's another beautiful piece I didn't know about. This is the thing. Bernard Andrès, I don't know how many pieces he's written for harp, but most of them are fabulous. Like he's like magic. He always just seems to have these gorgeous, and they're often, you know, almost folk music sounding. Like they sound almost like they're ancient, but they're not. He made them up, you know, out of. In fact, this one reminds me a little bit of Lord of the Rings, a little bit. You know, just
Yeah.
da 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 dee da. You know,
Yes.
when they're heading
Yeah.
to Mordor, but
Right.
without that dread. Anyway,
It
I guess
does.
we've
Yeah.
gone to 8:07, so I guess I can stop the recording now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop the recording there. And then we'll see you all. Here's